Hi guys, and welcome back to Let's Play Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Now I want you to notice here, I can basically use Syfa's fire spell like I would Trevor's whip, except there are some important differences. Like right here I miss because I'm a bit too close to the dragon skull cannon. That's something you should take into consideration. On top of that, my fire spell actually doesn't take care of the little red pellets shot by the dragon skull cannon, so here I'm just hopping up and down playing jump rope, which is actually a dumb idea because I could have just ducked and used my staff, but I didn't realize that until I watched the video afterwards, so there you go. Other than that though, Syfa's fire spell is basically just a more powerful version of Trevor's whip. It's got the same delay, it's shot at the same height because she's just as tall as Trevor, and it actually goes even a little bit further and is twice as powerful, so there's a nice bonus there. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying in the last video about how one of the nice things about Syfa is that you don't have this context switching in your brain, because in terms of her control scheme, you know, her jumping, her movements, she's basically the same as Trevor. And I think there's a real advantage there, unless you're one of those people who can context switch really easily, which I'm not. So that's another reason that I chose Syfa. So basically what I'm able to do here is I'm able to just play the game like I normally would with Trevor, but at the same time I've got this fire spell that's enormously powerful. Like, look at right here, I'm going to take out this knight in 4 hits, and normally that would have been 8 hits. So that's a huge advantage to have with Syfa. Now, in this next room, before I grab this pork chop that's hidden in the wall right here, don't miss this, it's fast. Right there, that was a pork chop. In this next room, I'm going to pick up another spell from Syfa. Another equally useful spell. This one is good for dispatching small enemies, it's the ice spell. So notice these little fuzzy guys right here. If you tried to beat them with any weapon other than the ice spell, I guarantee you it would take a really, really long time. I think that even with the holy water, it takes at least like 4 or 5 holy waters to take those guys out. Whereas with the ice spell, it's kind of like the freeze gun from Metroid. I can basically just freeze my enemies and then hit them afterwards and they'll shatter into smithereens. It's incredibly useful. Now this section right here is interesting. We've got a scrolling screen, so it's scrolling upwards. And so anyone who's familiar with old school video games knows that that bottom of the screen is going to kill you. Who knows why, but that's what its purpose in life is. It's to destroy you. So it's just steadily creeping up on you. And notice that it creeps up in bursts, so there's 2 things you should know about that. Number 1, you shouldn't get up too high, because enemies will actually appear kind of suddenly. Like you see right there, if I'd been standing on that block, suddenly I would have had a knight standing right on top of me, which would have been very inconvenient. The other thing I find interesting about it, though, is that they didn't actually do it, I think, because of some programming limitation. That was my first guess, actually. But then I realized that in other levels, they actually do have a smooth scrolling wall. Like, it scrolls down smoothly, or it scrolls up smoothly. So I think they must have done it for effect. Not sure why, but it's an interesting choice. So this is an example of a screen where the candles are just begging you to waste your time on them. I mean, they're placed perfectly so that if I were to jump on those, I would fall through, but instead I just walk right on past. So that's a great example of how the candles can be your worst enemy. Just ignore them when you don't need them that badly. You know what, I'll bet that whatever was in those candles, I don't know what, you know, be it gigantic heart or maybe even a nice weapon or something, maybe the lightning spell, I really don't care. It's not worth it. It's not worth falling to my death and having to start the level over again with nothing. Now here, I started off really stupidly in this part, messing up my ice spell. Then at some point I realized there's a really great strategy you can have here, which is, so you know that your sub-weapon only works at certain intervals on the stairs. So what I started to do is I just started spamming up and B, basically, you know, without knowing where it was going to fire, because it'll only fire at certain intervals on the stairs. And actually it's a pretty good strategy. Basically the ice spell just acts as a shield. I can take care of these pellets from the dragon skull cannon and stay pretty well protected. The only trick here is that you need a lot of hearts, because obviously I'm wasting my ice spell quite a bit by just firing indiscriminately. But at the end of the day I make it through okay, so no complaints here. These birds are really the bane of my existence. These guys, I don't know what it is about them, but they're just really, really tough to hit, I find. The way that they swoop down, they're just so malevolent. What do those birds have against me anyway? Like, what exactly did I do to them? You know some birds are just really mean? Like crows. If you've ever gotten on the wrong side of a crow, man, those things will just, I don't know what they have against people. They will just really come after you. Maybe that's the case with these guys. They're not even in Dracula's employ or anything, they're just some pissed off ravens. So at this point I switched into Trevor because the one thing about the ice spell is that it's basically useless against any boss. In this case, what the ice spell does is it freezes Frankenstein's blocks for about a split second, which does you pretty much 0 good. So at this point I'm just spamming the hammer Because, of course, like most bosses, this guy's major weakness is just running up to him and wailing on him. So, just use brute strength and you'll be able to get through most bosses, unfortunately. You know, be patient and use your head with most of the levels, but then with the bosses, just kind of charge forward and blindly start swinging. Well, that's it for this level. I'll see you guys in the next episode.